we should have a cracking final V8 Supercar race, the fourth of a 4-race weekend, and it has Shane Van Gisbergen and Jamie Whincup on the front row. They've done the winning this weekend. It's a battle of the Red Bulls. I think Craig Lowndes has to be in the mix for this one as well.
Yeah, you're right. For those who watched yesterday, you'll notice that the grid is actually not the finishing order. It's a cumulative of the first 3 races in points. So this is the points as it stands in a round format. And we see Shane Van Gisbergen on the pole and Jamie Whincup, his Red Bull Racing teammate, alongside. But the man you speak of, Craig Lowndes, he's out of third. For my money, I think he's been the quickest car. He's been, you know, really harassing his teammates in all of the races. A few more laps, and perhaps if they weren't his teammates, he'd be the one that could be winning these races.
Now, a little bit of housekeeping, and it's made the news and certainly social media overnight. Jamie Whincup got the win yesterday. Was pretty happy about that. Did a burnout at turn 15. He's $3,000 lighter for that. Controversial, isn't it, to penalise the celebration of what was a very good race win?
I mean, they're obviously planning their Christmas party in advance. I think it's a bit silly. I mean, someone's very proud of their race win. They do a burnout, the fans love it, and you get a $3,000 fine for it. Yeah, I mean, words can't describe it. It's a bit silly, in my opinion. But we're on with the racing. I can tell you now, if Shane Van Gisbergen wins today, he will do a ripping burnout, and I reckon the $3,000 won't faze him.
I think Roland would probably pay the fine, wouldn't he? We should mention to Dave Couchy, Jamie Whincup's engineer, a victory on his birthday yesterday, so a pretty good way to celebrate. So if you haven't seen any of the V8 Supercar racing so far this weekend, A, you've missed out because it's been sensational. B, you'll notice something different, a rolling start, side by side at 60 k's an hour until the lights go out. So it's Red Bull 1 and 2. 2 times this weekend, the 888 cars have finished first, second and third. The big question is, can anyone beat them in the 4th and final race of the Coates Hire V8 Supercar Challenge? We're racing Fabian Coulthard. There might be an early answer. Is he a contender today? He sweeps around the outside for DJR Team Penske and puts his Ford to 2nd place.
That's a great start from Fabian Coulthard. Shane was busy blocking Lowndes and then realised the advance was coming from Fabian Coulthard on the outside. So he's into 2nd. Craig Lowndes has got into 3rd and Jamie Whincup's dropped back to 4th. And this is where it all happens, down into turn 3.
Racy start for Michael Caruso and the white and red Nismo Nissan Altima. Cops a big hit there from James Courtney as they wrestle over 7th place, but they're okay. Fabian Coulthard, though, the big mover. He's had a strong but consistent weekend. Qualified 3rd, couple of 4ths, and then drifted to 5th in yesterday's race, but a great start. He's P2. That strong form from the Penske cars all weekend long continues into the 4th and final race. This is 12 laps. They'll be on the final set of Dunlop soft tyres they've been allocated. They basically had 1 per race to utilise across the course of the weekend.
And normally it's gloves off racing. Here in the last one, they've all got equal tyres, like you said, equal tyre quality, and everyone wants to win on Sunday, so this should be a great race. And the soft tyre promotes good racing. The drivers have a lot more confidence in the cars.
Perfect day at Albert Park. The sun shining, blue skies, good conditions for V8 racing. It's pretty cool outside, though. Don't let the blue skies and the sunshine deceive you. Chilly morning as we see the fight for 2nd with Lowndes looking at Coulthard. These opening laps critical, and if Van Gisbergen can manage his cold tyres and pull away early in the race, as we've seen before, he's going to be very, very tough to beat. That's Scott Pye dicing with Rick Kelly. That's for 9th and 10th.
For the first half of the lap, it looked like Fabian Coulthard was quite racy compared to Shane Van Gisbergen, but he's just dropped into the back of Craig Lowndes in that latter part of the lap. So this is going to be a fantastic race between the front 4. And look, there's plenty of other cars buying into this argument.
Chaz Mostert is in the thick of things in that super cheap Ford. He's dropped a couple of spots and he's going to lose some more as Rick Kelly goes down the inside. But a great exchange. The Holden Racing Team cars ganging up on the PRA Ford. Meanwhile, Jacket's on for the lead and Coulthard looking strong.
Yeah, but it all started. Garth put the move on Jamie Whincup and then he was left high and dry with Chaz Mostert, and then they drove each other off the road, and as a result, James Courtney got by both of them, as did Michael Caruso there, first of the Nissans in 5th. But this battle up the front between these front 4 is pretty intense. 3 888 cars and Fabian Coulthard right in the mix.
Talked all weekend about the tyre and how they've run the soft tyre this year after a hard compound last season, and the racing perhaps not as good as we would have liked 12 months ago. It's almost as if they're reveling in the grip they've got, and as a result, they've been carving each other up since the first race on Friday morning. Mostert under fire again.
Look at the damage on that Falcon. I mean, Chaz has gone from being in 5th place, belted around, back to 10th now. The mirrors hanging off at the doors, damaged.
That's amazing racing. Here's Coulthard. He's got Lowndes behind him. And then Whincup, who's been jostled back to 4th place. It's still on for the round for Van Gisbergen. Of course, he's got the 2 race wins. But the battle for the final spots on the podium, very competitive between Coulthard, Lowndes and Whincup. At the moment, it'd be Jamie Whincup just over Lowndes by a point from Coulthard. So that final spot on the podium, pretty crucial to whoever comes out in front of car 12 or car 888.
Michael Caruso's got great speed there in the Nissan in 5th place. We take a look at the replay. Shane Van Gisbergen right of screen, and look at Fabian Coulthard in the black Falcon on the left. Great start, got a great run, and almost into the lead there as he gets into turn 1, settles for 2nd. That's a great start.
SVG throwing a bit of a block party for poor old Craig Lowndes there down the inside at 1, didn't he?
Yeah, and look, back in the pack there, Chris Pither just had it come in together with Dave Reynolds. Bit of a shame for Chris in that ice brake car. He was 13th overall up into this race and dropped way back down the order now.
Yeah, really promising stuff for the young Kiwi in his first full-time season. Actually raced here last year, filling in for David Wall in the Volvo camp. Did a one-off round for the Enduros. Now, this was that great exchange. Mossed it up the inside of Tander, who gets into the rear quarter of the Super Cheap Ford. Courtney goes around the outside, and that continued on for a couple of corners. Good exchange. Where's Jamie Whincup? He's dropping down the order. He's not in the fight for the lead anymore. He's disappeared while we were at replay, and he's dropped off the back of Craig Lowndes.
So that elevates Michael Caruso now into 4th. We'll try and work out what's happened to Jamie. I'd suggest there we go, parked up. That would be a mechanical drama, I'm sure.
So that's at 11 and 12. That fast chicane at the back of Albert Park. 200+ km/h entry into 11. And look at Coulthard. He's got good tyre condition clearly for this race. And the FGX4 that they've been tuning and tweaking all weekend is looking very, very strong. And the Kiwis are 1 and 2. And this has been a racetrack where New Zealand drivers have traditionally gone very well between Coulthard, Van Gisbergen and McLaughlin. They did a lot of winning here a couple of years in a row before Mark Winterbottom won all 4 races 12 months ago at this venue.
Really promising stuff here for Team Penske. I mean, Red Bull, 888 have been so dominant this weekend. So for Fabian Coulthard and Penske Racing to get right up here in the mix, really promising signs for the championship year ahead.
And Lowndes, as you mentioned at the top of the race, Jack, has got great car speed again. His problem this weekend has been track position in that he's been buried behind the rear wing of somebody in every race. Qualified 7th and 7th in race 1, but charged his way forward in race 2, and he's been at the front ever since. And that engineering battle at 888 is going to be really interesting to follow, isn't it? We talk about Dave Coucher getting the win yesterday. Grant McPherson, who moved from PRA across to the 888 squad, is now on car 97 with Van Gisbergen. And we heard with Larco yesterday, Ludo Lacroix, the very experienced, very smart Frenchman, is working with car 888 and Craig Lowndes, and they have got that car switched on early in the season. Shane Van Gisbergen continues to lead this race and is on course to win the round overall, with Fabian Coulthard and Craig Lowndes still in close company. Behind them, Jack, one of the stories of the day, Michael Caruso up to P4 for Nissan. They seem to have been engineering themselves towards the front, getting better and better with each race over the course of the weekend.
Absolutely fantastic to see 3 brands in the top 4. And Michael Caruso last time by was the fastest car on the racetrack, and he set the 2nd fastest lap of the race. So he's got good car speed aboard that Nissan. He's got James Courtney behind him, and collectively they're just catching the back of Craig Lowndes. But the front 3 have certainly skipped away, and they are very evenly matched in pace.
Yeah. So boys, just let's nail over a couple of things from down here on the pit lane. First one is that Nissan drama we saw over the last couple of days with the smoke coming out of one of the cars. It wasn't as bad as we thought. That was an overfilling of the oil tank. They've got to get to the bottom of it, but it certainly wasn't finger trouble, so that's actually good news. Jamie Whincup, I just ducked next door to try and get a word with the 888 guys. I got a very stern from Roland, they don't know what was wrong with the car. The reaction from David Couchy, Jamie Whincup's engineer, the way he threw his pen down when Jamie pulled aside, would tell me that they probably do know and don't want to talk about it, would be my read on that. Let's keep going, Larco. What else? Formula 1 qualifying. Spoken to a few of those boys. Said you just need to stick your head over the fence and watch some of our V8 races if you want to see good qualifying. Really simple. Open the door, 20 minutes, plenty of tyres, go for it.
Contact James Moffatt, thanks Larco, and Cam Waters, the monster forward, having a bit of a crack further down. This is 15th and 16th place. And that's the Clipsal 500 winner going past there as well. The LD Motorsport car 222. That's busy throughout the field. Touch on the fact Scott McLaughlin up to 12th place, started 15th. We saw him go off in the race yesterday, Jake. Lost oil pressure in that car and just immediately shut it down. Didn't want to do any damage to the engine, of course, with another round. Very, very close down in Tasmania in just a week's time. They have to jump on the boat and get these cars down there as Jason Wright goes up the inside. So this is a busy little fight with the Volvo. Talking on the Jamie Whincup scenario on the team radio, all Jamie said was something malfunctioned, and that was all they've said. So that's a suspicious little failure they've had there in car 888, and we'll follow that up for you as much as we can before this race ends.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know. They could be trying to test engine or anything. Something has clearly let go. I mean, Jamie, you see his car parked there on the inside of turn 11. You don't just do that because you want to go and wave to the crowd. Obviously, something's wrong. And like Larko said, they don't want to talk about it, but this is a very spirited battle down the pack. We've got James Moffatt in his brand new team, only his second race for Volvo, and just coming to grips with that car this year. He didn't have the performance he was after at the Clipsal 500, and just getting to, you know, get familiar with the new car. And a lot of the cars and drivers that have swapped over the summer period haven't found it easy to just slot into the new environment and get straight on the pace, and that really highlights what it's all about in V8 Supercars. It's ultra competitive, and Shane Van Gisbergen is probably the only guy that's been able to swap teams and really come out and hit the ground running.
Let's talk big picture, Jack, because as I said, we're down in Tassie in 2 weeks for the next round, and it's a busy stretch from there because Phillip Island not too far after that. There's some promising signs for teams that have already started the year well here. The 888 thing we've talked about, the DJR Team Penske thing we've talked about, and they've had 2 cars in the top 10 for most of the weekend. Scott Pye, 7th. Michael Caruso, let's not forget, championship leader. And some would say perhaps lucked into that a little bit at the Clipsal 500, but sometimes in this game it's better to be lucky than good. But they've got real speed now, and they've got this car to the front of the field. He's P4 on pace, and that's a promising sign.
That absolutely is. And while these races here were only demonstration events and they're only 12 lappers, when we get back into the championship scenario and strategies involved, the best strategy is car speed. Because very often, or very rarely, I should say, do you lose a race when you've got good car speed. So Michael Caruso, as you say, leading the championship but running 4th here on merit, got good car speed, and he's flying the flag for Nissan at the moment. He's the most sort of consistent performer at the front, and he'll be looking to maintain that championship position in a couple of weeks' time when we head down to Tassie.
And the other, Larko.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's a good point, Jack, because car speed gives you strategy options, doesn't it? And if you want to go back and look at your video of Clipsal 500, there's a really good drag race with one of those Nissans and Garth Tander, if I remember, along the straight where it held its own. Now, that wouldn't have happened last year. So Simmons Plains, remember, big 100% throttle application down there as a percentage of the lap. So expect something from Nissan down there. The other one I think we need to talk about, if you're a Red fan, Holden Racing Team, they've done a lot of development in the off-season. Rewind 12 months to here, they certainly weren't as competitive as they have been this weekend. I know they're trying some more stuff, so I think they're also going to be in good shape. DJR Penske, as you say, they're going to continue to go forward, get used to that. And I just want to quickly touch on Craig Lowndes' engineer, the little Frenchman, Ludo Lacroix, we talk about. I had a chat to him this morning, and a little bit like the Ferrari James Allison situation. So James Allison has designed that Ferrari down there that I reckon's half a chance of a result this afternoon. He used to stand on the pit wall as well as designing the car and have to engineer some of the race and the car. Ludo Lacroix, similarly in the 888 team, has been designing car but hasn't been at the race event. So he said to me this morning, coming on race event and now being an engineer, if you like, to Craig, he's quite rusty. So it was quite an honest admission to say that. So I guess where I'm getting to here is expect more from Craig Lowndes and Ludo as the year goes on.
Well, that's probably a fair point, Larko, given the way they've improved over the weekend. Remember, qualified 7th and have been running in the top 2 or 3 since then. So that's a fair point.
And we spoke about swapping teams and new environments and getting used to it. And it's no different internally when you work with a new engineer. It's the same as AFL football clubs getting a new coach. It's the same as a lot of other sports that work closely. And you need the engineer and driver relationship to work to get the most out of it. And last year, Craig worked with Shippy, as he's known, Grant McPherson, who's now switched over to car 97 on Shane's car. So Craig's had to start again with Ludo, who's familiar with the team, but just been out of that sort of day-by-day race scenario for a few years.
And quite frankly, as we look at Shane Van Gisbergen out in front here, I mean, it is nice to see Coulthard there with him, but you know, I'm going to give a few of the teams a little bit of a backhander here, mate, because I actually don't think they've done a good enough job. 888 should not be able to come to a race meeting like this and put 3 cars in the top 3 nearly all weekend. I mean, if they've got 4 cars, they're going to put 4 there. There's teams up and down this pit lane that have had $10 million for 10 years each year. So they simply should be doing a good enough job. So I think the field, we're going to go back and have a bit of a hard look at themselves. I think we've got to do a better job. How do we take this team on? It's not like Formula One. It's not free rules. It's not like having a Merc up there with a better engine. These guys, we've got a really tight set of rules, and I reckon the field need to be doing a better job.
Pro Drive this weekend, Larko. I think, sure, Winterbottom got turned around in race 1, but they've been on the back foot all weekend. So, Mark Winterbottom, by the way, currently 11th in car number 1 and made his way up to 12th in race 2. So, you didn't see it. He and Fabian Coulthard got into each other at turn 11, that very, very fast left-hand corner at the back of the circuit. It turned Winterbottom around. There was no penalty for it, but he drove through the field to 12th in race 2, but he's made no forward progress since then. Mostard's proved they've got speed in those cars, although he's now down in 9th place, Jack. But do you get the distinct impression that maybe on car 1 they're trying something a little bit different and perhaps just going into the testing phase of this weekend now?
It's hard to know the complete programs and the specific programs, but you're right. I mean, Mark Winterbottom qualified 2nd, so we can't suggest that the car speed wasn't there in qualifying. Bit of bad luck in that first race, and once you're in the mid-pack, it's very hard to get out of it. As you see on the screen now, this is a really spirited battle here, and once you're in amongst all this, it's hard to show your true car speed. But look, I know for a fact how much work Holden Racing team put in the off-season, really trying to turn around the consistency of the cars. They've built a brand new car for James Courtney. They're building a brand new car for Garth Tander, and it makes you wonder, you know, you win the championship, have you become complacent? Because those PRA guys dominated here this time last year.
Well, Jack, it's a cultural thing, mate, isn't it? I mean, I walk up and down the pit lane here and I can tell you the body language, and I hate raving about it, but the body language in the Triple 18 then, when that car just pulled over the side in what we're calling a demonstration event, they're not treating it like a demonstration. They are 1,000% committed to winning the race. And look at it, there's a bunch of sad faces in there. I mean, seriously, you reckon the world was going to win?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we all come here to win regardless of championship status or not, and Jamie Whincup was so pumped, and the whole team, when they got pole position, because they knew they out-qualified the champion from last year. So they've certainly been able to improve their cars over a 12-month period, and we know that we need to be mindful of Triple 8. Everyone knows that. And just when they're on their day, which we've seen this weekend, they've locked out the podium. So it's, as we said, though, we've touched on the positives. Certainly Fabian Coulthard and Michael Caruso and the Nissan really mixing it up with those front guys.
Well, the other factor in that conversation, guys, is the fact that we were just watching James Moffatt having a great scrap with Jason Wright. Dale Wood was in there and Lee Holdsworth. Here it continues, and Brighty still on the rebound. He's had a horrific weekend, 2 DNFs from the 3 races so far, and this is the scrap for 15th place. So they're towards the back of the field. But there's been so much change in the off-season. No team was unchanged over the course of the summer, and there's still drivers and teams getting to grips with each other. So this weekend's actually quite important because it's another race weekend where you don't have to worry about points, but you can just focus on getting yourself comfortable. Lee Holdsworth said that coming into this round with that new team at Charlie Schwerkolt Racing, Jeff Gretsch behind the scenes helping out and running that program, that he didn't feel comfortable extending the car to its limits at Clipsal because you can destroy a car there very easy. He said this weekend was important for our learning process because there's a little bit room for us to make mistakes and get away with it and find where the boundaries are. And I'd suggest Moffatt in the Volvo for the first time this year might well be the same factor.
It's just so hard. You only get one private day in the car before you go to Clipsal, and then that's, you know, high pressure stuff. It's the first race of the year, one of the biggest events on the calendar for V8 Supercars, and everyone's watching. So this gives you a chance to come out to the Grand Prix, maybe try a few things, get comfortable in the car. You see Bridie having a bit of a look here. He's not afraid to use the bumper, Bridie. We saw him coming on the front straight, just lean into the back of the Volvo. But Moss been able to skip away there as they head down the back straight.
Second most experienced driver in the field, Jason Bright at Albert Park in V8 Supercars, behind Craig Lowndes, who's been here every year bar one of the 20 that V8 Supercars have been here. Missed just that 1 year in 97 when he dropped over to Europe to race F3000, but has been here every year since. Craig, 5 race wins to his credit, which in fact is the same as Jason Bright at this venue. So 2 very successful drivers at Albert Park. And those Brad Jones Racing have always had pretty good cars here. And they've had solid car speed this weekend, Jack, as we start the final lap with Van Gisbergen in front. Bridie just had those dramas at turn 1. Speaking of dramas at 1, James Courtney and Michael Caruso get stuck into each other. It's for P4. Courtney's gone through. Caruso will want that back.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, in the driver's code of conduct, I guess you're not really supposed to move in the braking zone. And Michael Caruso did move over to block James and then just snuck it back over. So watch this. Michael Caruso darts over to the right, and from here on, you're supposed to stay in a straight line. And unfortunately, Michael's come back over the front of James. James did nothing wrong there. A little bit of contact on the exit, and James has been able to sneak into fourth.
Great shot of Caruso with the opposite lock, and just gave JC a love tap for his efforts there on the corner exit as Courtney took his racing line.
Great slow-mo shot there. Wheel-to-wheel contact like that is when you get damage to these cars. I mean, the rear suspension can really damage the front suspension. Both cars lucky that both the wheels are still pointing straight ahead.
What do you think Jason Barguana, the driver standards observer, will say about that in race control?
Oh, mate, I had the same issue last year with Rick Kelly at Bathurst. He moved across the front of me in the braking zone. I put him out of the race or off the track, and unfortunately, you can't move your car. You can't get on the grass to get out of the way. And unfortunately for that situation, Michael just moved a little bit too far back over to the left, and James was already there. So I would suspect nothing happens.
We've spoke throughout these races across the course of the weekend that this might be a key weekend for Triple Eight. He's celebrating already. He's still got a quarter of a lap to go. Shane van Gisbergen is about to notch up his 7th race win at Albert Park.
So if he gets smoke off the car doing some celebratory stuff on the last lap,
for $3 grand.
Is that a $3,000 burnout as well? Look at him. Absolutely good stuff. This is what the fans love to see. Shane van Gisbergen winning races, hanging the back out. This is cool stuff.
It's been a great start to his career as a Red Bull driver. Shane van Gisbergen wins the race and the weekend at Albert Park. And Fabian Coulthard, great signs for DJR Team Penske with a fighting second. And Craig Lowndes third will actually beat Coulthard to the final spot, actually the second spot on the podium by a point. So it'll be Van Gisbergen, Lowndes, Coulthard, the top 3 for the round. Entertaining stuff. And Van Gisbergen has just been so very good this weekend. He wins 3 out of 4. Denies a clean sweep, but a great victory nonetheless. Coulthard second, Lowndes to third, and that's the podium for the weekend overall as well, with James Courtney fighting fourth at the end in front of Michael Caruso, then Garth Tander, Scott Pye, Rick Kelly, Chaz Mostert, and Tim Slaves.